We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andrew, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. Tom is still a logo, and no one will hopefully notice, but behind the scenes, we aren't using Skype anymore. Oh my goodness. I mean, we can't.
It's the end of an era. It's the end of an era.
So we're trying.
Stupid Microsoft decided that,
Mm-hmm.
I understand, they having competing,
right.
platforms that they both own.
Yeah, converging into one, that does makes logical sense. I don't have any beef with that. Sure.
Yeah. Except that it makes my life difficult. And
well, it's just
my wife's like, why don't you guys start using Teams or start using Zoom? I'm like, well, it costs money.
I mean, Teams has a 1 hour limit unless you pay for it. And famously, this podcast goes longer than 1 hour.
But let's just all agree that it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing if our if our podcast decided to limit itself to an hour.
That would be one way of enforcing a limit.
Yes.
But anyway, we're trying a free peer-to-peer, no server in between program called Jammy. So seems functional enough for now. We could find no references to there being any sort of time limit, which you wouldn't imagine there would be since it's peer-to-peer, but we'll see how it goes. If this never sees the light of day, then I guess this introduction doesn't matter, and if it goes well enough, then hopefully we just will never have to worry about it again. But that's happening behind the scenes.
That is behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And then Rob sounds weird.
I do.
And I sound weird to Rob as well.
It's just doing a thing where, our voices bounce between left and right channels, which, I mean, we record in mono, so you'll never notice on the podcast we release. But I wouldn't want to be like recording what I'm hearing from Tom's end on my end, because that might come out really strange.
Does it happen continuously or just when I first start talking?
It seems to be random.
You see, mine, with you, it's when you first...
Okay.
When you first, if there's been a break and you start talking, that does it, and then you lock in and you're fine.
No, yours just did it like 3 separate times in that one sentence you just said. So,
well, I'm special. Yeah. I'm a special.
Anyway, all of that
because
nonsense we can put aside. Sure, we can blame everything on that.
Oh, my laptop. But for those that are
updates.
I thought you were going to get your laptop. Me too.
Okay,
me too.
Yeah,
I thought that as well. But they did say it was going to be like 3 to 5, which I take it to be 5 to 7. Business days to ship the part in.
Okay.
Yeah, and then God knows if that is going to be delayed by any socio-political
and if that even fixes
environment
it at the end of all things.
Yeah, we don't even know if that's going to fix it, really.
So that explains why, if you're watching our YouTube version, Tom remains a logo for now. He does not have his laptop app, so it's still the makeshift setup on the old desktop. So. Yeah.
So we've had the TV set up for about a week now, and I managed to squeeze in between all the stuff my wife had me do. One of my sons is home. He came home on Thursday, and he's leaving again on Thursday. So this is the day that this podcast is supposed to go live. We'll see what day it actually goes live, since Rob is doing all the editing now because I don't have access to my computer. But he's leaving again. So, I had to go get him up in Tallahassee and bring him home and all of his stuff. And then, so he's been here. So I had to wake him up and kick him out of this room so that I could do the podcast. So it's been kind of crazy. But I did watch one episode, the first episode of Skeleton Crew.
Should we save this for the what we watch section? Because I've got a whole bunch to say in the intro section before we get to what we watched.
Hold on. Yeah, okay. So the other thing I wanted to say is, now that I've had the TV set up for about a week, I did have a discussion with somebody, sort of a discussion. And all of you AV people out there who are, just by virtue of being deep enough in the niche to listen to this podcast,
right?
You are so knowledgeable that people will actually find out about it and then say and ask you a question. And what they really want to do is just tell you their answer to that question, and they don't really care what the actual answer is.
And get approval. Yes, that is usually what it is.
I don't even think they really need approval as much as they need to just say it. They would really rather you not talk I think.
Right, yeah.
So,
that's like, any of the like video game podcasts where the people write in and ask the host about their favorite games. They just want to tell the hosts about what their favorite game is. They don't actually want to hear the answer.
No, they don't really care. So I had somebody ask me the other day, and they know that I've been doing this for a long time. And, would I even really, I went and bought a TV. First of all, he went and bought a TV without specifically asking me which TV to buy.
That part's already done. Too late for that.
So, and he bought it because he had a Samsung in the past, and he likes he knows the remote layout.
Okay.
I'm like, that is, while not the worst, absolute worst reason to buy a TV, it's on that list. It is on the short list of terrible reasons.
It's not like he's likely to get a real stinker from Samsung, so I don't have any beef sticking with the brand if you like it for that reason. Yeah.
But he's like, well, I don't, there was, this one that costs that much and this one that costs that much. And would I even really notice a difference? And I just looked at him and said, yes. Yes, you would. Well, if I put them side by side, I'm sure I'm like, you would probably notice the difference. The difference is pretty stark. Like I've got this new TV, new to me, TV set up, this LG, which is I'm sure is a perfectly serviceable TV. I don't know really. I haven't looked into it that well, but it's been 6 months since I was looking at my OLED.
Right.
Or more.
Yeah.
So, it's been over 6 months since I have looked at my OLED in my home theater, and I'm looking at this TV going, this is so inferior. Like, it's not even, it's just, and it's not like it's a bad TV. It's not like I'm looking at it going, oh, this is terrible. Like, the monitor that I'm using it's an Acer monitor that I'm using for this computer was gifted. It was like in one of those Facebook giveaway groups my wife found, and they gave us a bunch of little stuff, but it included a printer that I was like, you might as well throw it away. There's no way it's going to work. The thing has been, it's been nonstop. It has worked perfectly. I'm like, I cannot believe this printer works. We didn't have to put ink in it or anything. It just works. And this monitor, right? So I was like, oh, well, we got this monitor, set it up, blah, blah, blah. My wife's been using it. My family's been using it. And I'm like, I'm sure it's fine back there. I went back here to edit some photos for an AV Gadgets review I did recently of some earplugs. And I was like, this is unusable. It's just like these are not the right colors. It only took me.
This is not what is going to print out.
Yeah, this only took me like 10 minutes to go through like the not auto, but the manual calibration thing that you can do, where the PC will walk you through. Make this look like that, make this look like that, sort of thing to get it, and it got it close enough, but. That's the sort of thing. I'm looking at this thing, and it's not that bad. But the LG TV, I'm like, I have calibrated this best I can. I'm sure I could mess with it a little bit more and fine tune a little bit more. But with just sort of basic calibrations, people should have hair, and not a black blob on around there
with maybe a posterized stripe or two in between there to try and differentiate some levels. Yeah,
and it's fine. It's fine. Overall, the colors are.
You were going from an OLED to a edge lit IPS LCD panel. It's going to be very noticeable.
It's going to. And this is the thing. He's like, I don't really think I'm going to know the difference between this and that. That local dimming you were talking about. How do you even know about that local dimming? I don't know. Do you have a phone in your hand while you're shopping? Because if it doesn't say FALD on it, which sometimes it won't, read the bullet points underneath. It might tell you, but if not, you've got a phone. It's not that hard to figure out. But you will, people are like, oh, well, only weirdos. Weirdos.
They both say 4K, so they've got to be equivalent.
Yeah. So anyways, I after we're living with this TV for a couple of weeks, I guess a week now, week and a half.
Right.
It's been nice. It's nice having the TV at the end, and the KEF speakers I really like.
Yeah.
And the NAD receiver is doing a perfectly fine job.
For stereo.
Yeah. Do not ask me if I ran the room correction, the DRAC, because I did not.
DRAC has not been run on your 2 bookshelf speakers and nothing else connected yet. I think that makes sense.
My 2 bookshelf speakers that are playing basically in mono.
Right.
But the Kev speakers are really, I mean, I have always liked Kev speakers, and, of course, because it's stereo, they automatically set the full range.
Yes.
I mean, a decent amount of bass, amount of, but what you would expect,
Oh yeah.
And I'm perfectly happy with them. That's for sure. And how I think they look good. I think they sound good. And like I said, the TV for the price I paid, which is nothing. Somebody gave it to me.
Yeah.
It was certainly serviceable. And that's the thing. People are like, oh, I don't think I'm going to notice a difference. Well, what you're saying is I don't want to pay more money.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
I don't want to pay any more money. But would you notice a difference? You absolutely would.
Okay.
You absolutely would. So, Rob, what did you do this week?
Yeah, I had quite the week. So there's going to be a prolonged intro section from me, a little bit
Rob?
unusual.
Oh my God, it's a shock.
Yes, it is. But yeah, I'll pretty much just go in the order in which things happened. So yeah, I had visions like around this weekend of being like, hey man, like I did have a productive week, but I was gonna be like, hey, this was a really good week. But there was one little hiccup that I'll get to a little bit later on that is kind of casting a little bit of a cloud over my head, but I'll get to that in just a moment. So the first thing up was Switch 2 pre-orders. You might have noticed, if you were right on the ball of things last week, that went ahead and posted both the YouTube and audio-only versions of our podcast on Wednesday last week there, because as I texted to Tom, I was very concerned that there might be people out there who only get their Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order news from AVRant and nowhere else.
That's sad. It's a sad state of affairs.
If I hadn't posted both versions of the podcast prior to the pre-orders beginning at midnight Eastern time in the United States on Thursday, so like technically Thursday morning because just past midnight, then they might have missed it. So I had to get those things posted on Wednesday. So anyway, Canada's pre-orders, where I'm pre-ordering from, was all over the place. Walmart Canada, walmart.ca, they went ahead and said, okay, they're going to do midnight, which for me is 9 p.m. on Wednesday evening because I'm over in Pacific time. There I was a few minutes before 9 o'clock refreshing the walmart.ca website as everyone else in Canada who wants to switch to was doing as well. And so sure enough, like basically right on the dot, maybe a few seconds after midnight, they're holding pages on their website for both versions of the Switch 2 console that you can pre-order, because there's the standalone system and then the one that comes bundled with Mario Kart World, which is the obvious deal to get. The one without the Mario Kart, that pre-order link went live, and I'm like, well, I do want the one with Mario Kart, but I'm kind of like, okay, so I'll click on the one that went live, and it's like, okay, it was there, you can like click the pre-order button, but then like moments later, the one with the Mario Kart bundle went live, so I'm like, okay, great. So I click on that, it's there, it's in my cart, I was already logged in, and then as you can guess, you cannot check out. It's like, no matter what you do, it's either like, yep, the credit card is not on file, you're not logged in, log in again, hey, do this CAPTCHA, oh, it's not in your cart anymore, you like get through half the stages, and like I even got to the stage of like my credit card company sent me a text message being like, hey, are you actually trying to make this purchase, because it's kind of expensive and you don't usually buy from walmart.ca, and I'm like, yes, do that, and they're like, well, you gotta like try the whole process over again because that didn't go through. So long story short on that one, total bust, was not able to check out of Walmart, but I was able to pre-order the accessories because I want to get a Pro Controller and a couple other things. I was able to pre-order the accessories, but I was not able to get a console at 9 p.m. Wednesday for me, midnight over in the East Coast, from walmart.ca. So the rest of everybody else was going to be well into the next day. Most of them were going to be noon Eastern time. Best Buy was saying they were going to be 9 a.m. Eastern time. So I'm like, okay, I've got a while to wait. I'm going to get some sleep. In the meantime, Walmart was like, yeah, we're totally sold out. They're on social media. They're like, we're going to post when we have pre-orders open again at some point before launch. But it's like, that was it. That was done and dusted, and I didn't get one there. But I did note that no matter how long you waited, pretty much all the accessories and everything, they sold out as well. But that camera's still available to this day. You can still pre-order that camera, no problem. Doesn't seem like that's going to be very popular. So anyway, I get up the next morning and I'm checking Mobile Syrup, which is one of the websites that does a really good job in Canada of tracking when pre-orders are available for various things. And they're like, oh, yeah, middle of the night, Costco and Staples decided, like they had never announced when their pre-orders were going to be in, but they're just like, yeah, 3 a.m., that's when Costco and Staples pre-orders are going to begin. I'm like, well, missed those. So here I am, 6 a.m., shortly before 6 a.m., waiting for the Best Buy ones to begin. Well, Best Buy. Yes, moments before, as I'm refreshing the website, as has happened before when I was ordering like PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X from Best Buy, they're like, hey, there's a big launch coming up. We're putting you in a virtual queue. And once you get to the end of this virtual queue, you'll have the opportunity to put things in your cart and check out. And that has worked reasonably well in the past. I'm like, okay, nothing surprising there. Sounds good. And the queue was moving along quite quickly, like starting right at 6 a.m. my time. The queue was moving along. I'm like, great, this seems okay. Like I say, has happened before. So I get to the end of the queue. I'm dumped into the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order webpage, and everything, even the camera, shows up as unavailable. You cannot add it to your cart. And so, of course, I'm refreshing and doing all the things and trying to log in on other devices, and the other devices are putting me in the queue again. But then I'm checking social media, and like everyone across Canada is like, yeah, how come you put us in a queue to virtually line up for nothing, because there is absolutely nothing we can add to our carts at this time. At which point, Best Buy's website just shut down. So we're like, yeah, well done, Best Buy Canada. Aces, just perfect execution. So that was a whole bunch of refreshing waiting around. In the meantime, Amazon Canada, they finally announced, because they had never said what time they're going to begin pre-orders. They're like, our pre-orders are going to begin at 10 a.m. Eastern time, 1 hour after Best Buy, 7 a.m. my time. I'm like, okay, that's good. That's handy. I'll be over there. So I'm refreshing their landing pages, and Amazon does the thing where it's like, until the item is ready to buy, if you click on the link, they're just like, a dog lost our link, and they show you a cute dog picture, and the dog picture changes every time you refresh the page. But there's like nothing there until it's live. So it's like 8 minutes after 7. It's like the link worked, and it's like, okay, those pages are live on Amazon.ca, except there was no way to pre-order. You could request an invitation. And if they choose your invitation, they will invite you to pre-order a Switch 2 at Amazon.ca. There was no way to actually pre-order at 7 a.m. So I'm like, okay, well, I put in my requests for invitations, and then I'm like going back to Best Buy and seeing what's going on. So let's see, what time was it? I think it was 8 a.m. my time. 11 a.m. Eastern. Best Buy Canada, all of a sudden, the links went live. And they were like, hey, we're going to like blast this out on social media when our webpage is back up. We're going to send out emails. Never did any of that. It just randomly started showing up for pre-orders at 8 a.m. And I'm like, I was refreshing, and a lot of people apparently had left and given up. So I'm like, okay, I got it in my cart, and I got like into the checkout. I get to the end of the checkout process, and it's like, you are now in a virtual queue to complete your checkout. I'm like, okay, we'll see how this goes. In the meantime, the last two pre-order places, which were GameStop Canada and London Drugs, which I don't think you guys have London Drugs in the US, do you? Anyway, Canadian retailer. All along, they were like noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's when we're going to begin ours. So I'm refreshing now. Well, I'm not refreshing the Best Buy because I'm in the virtual queue to check out. Supposedly have already done so. And I'm refreshing the GameStop and the London Drugs. So the GameStop, shortly before 9 a.m. my time, they're like, you're in a virtual queue. And it's like, okay. And they actually had an estimated time to get to the end of that queue. And my waiting time, even though I had refreshed the page like minutes before 9 a.m. and it like, one of the refreshes is like, you're now in the virtual queue. My virtual waiting time was 3 hours and 40 minutes. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure there's going to be stock left by then. London Drugs, in the meantime, they actually did send out their email. They were the only one of all these companies that actually sent out the email they promised. And in that email was a link. They're like, click on this link. It'll take you to the pre-order page. That link never worked. And so, of course, I went to London Drugs' own website, which was struggling because their website struggles under the best of times, let alone when there's actually demand for something. And I was able to get to the Nintendo page, and they're like, there's a banner, pre-order Switch 2 here. Click on that, and that actually worked, and you could see both of them. And like, I put it in the cart, and it even showed how many they had, and it seemed like they had 1,500 for all of Canada, so that number was dwindling very quickly. But I get through the whole checkout process at London Drugs. They're like, hey, all you have to do is fill out this CAPTCHA. CAPTCHA never showed up. And so I did not manage GameStop about an hour into waiting. They're just like, yeah, we're sold out. I never got to the end of their virtual queue. London Drugs was never able to actually check out. But back over at Best Buy, it took an hour to get through the virtual checkout queue. I'm like, well, that's obviously not going to work. But it did. It all went through after an hour of waiting in the virtual queue. So on that day, on the Thursday, I secured one Switch 2 pre-order, and I am trying to actually pre-order 3 because I'm getting one for myself and getting one for my nephew and getting one for my niece. But I managed to secure one pre-order. So I'm already signed up waiting for Nintendo's own directly sales through Nintendo, which they're doing on May 8th. We'll see how that goes. I got my invitation request in there very early for Nintendo's own, so hopefully that comes through. But the following day, I woke up for work on the Friday morning, and lo and behold, there was an invitation in my email from Amazon. They're like, we're inviting you to pre-order a Switch 2. It's like, as long as you click on this link within the next 22 hours, like there's one waiting for me to pre-order. And that worked perfectly. Checked out in like under a minute. And so I have now secured 2 Switch 2 pre-orders. 2 out of 3 ain't bad for those couple of days, and we'll see if Nintendo directly comes through. So that was my Switch 2 pre-order adventure. Such fun, wasn't it?
Very exciting.
Yes. Now, up in Canada, our tax deadline is the end of April 30th. So my taxes were filed, and I help out one of my aunts because she can't really do it on her own anymore. And for the past number of years, it's been kind of an interesting thing because, you know, we had the whole fallout from the pandemic, and pretty much all of her income comes from her investments. And the people who manage her investments, they were changing strategy on the fly, and they did a really good job. They did a really good job of like not losing her any money despite the downturns in the market right after the pandemic and that. But they were, you know, diversifying in many things. And throughout 2022 and 2023, they actually put a lot of her funds into things that paid dividends and paid interest rather than just relying on stock prices, because a lot of stock prices were going down. So as a result of that, like when you're declaring your income, anything that's dividends and interest, you just have to declare as income, right? If you're reinvesting in stocks that don't pay dividends or don't pay interest, well, then it's only once you cash those out that you have to claim your capital gains. But anything that's paying dividends and interest is like that all has to be declared as income in that year. So 2022 and 2023, all of a sudden her income looked substantially bigger than in like all the prior years. But throughout 2024, since the market kind of stabilized, they went back to their original strategy, didn't have all those dividends and interest. And so her income looks really similar to like 2019 and 2020, but it's different from the past 2 years, 2022 and 2023 taxes. End result being, you know, she's going to get a refund back because now her declared income is like much more similar to the most of the years, but we had paid her tax installments based on the assumption that it might be about the same as it was in 2022 and 2023 with all those dividends and interest. So our Canada Revenue Agency, it's like if you owe them some extra money at the end of the year and you file your taxes online, it's like instant automated notice of assessment. They're like, yep, everything's A-okay. You owe us some extra money. We're fine with that. Instant notice of assessment. When you're going to get a refund, and not just like a $100 refund, like several $1,000 refund, they're like, we need to review this. So that's the little storm cloud that's hanging over my head because I'm like,
oh, geez.
It's not an audit. It's nothing like that. But they're just like, how come we are giving you back several $1,000s? And so I'm just waiting because, I mean, chances are that like they'll just review all the tax forms. There's nothing else to it. Our tax filing is pretty darn automated at this point, so there's not much to it. There's one deduction I was making because of where she's living that they might request the certified letter on that, which I have and I can give to them at any time. But since we're filing electronically, that stuff isn't there. So hopefully it's nothing major, but it's just a little thing in the back of my mind. And then Monday, just yesterday, as we're recording this, that was election day in Canada, choosing our new government, which will then, whatever becomes the ruling party, will determine the new prime minister, because we don't vote directly for our prime minister. We vote for our members of parliament. They're part of a party. The party chooses their leader, and their leader of the leading party becomes the prime minister. That's how our system works. So 2 of my aunts needed some help voting. Holy smokes, I've never seen it that busy.
That's good.
Voting in a federal election. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to take that long, but it was quite a waiting period there. And so, yeah, it looks like, by all accounts, we're trending at about 70 to 72% of eligible voters actually came out and voted. And that number might actually go up higher because there are still the mail-in ballots and people who voted out of province or out of country and stuff, and that hasn't actually been counted yet as we're recording this podcast. So it definitely is. It's not historically high. There were times before that, got up over 80%. At certain times, it's not going to reach that, but it's definitely higher than the past couple of elections for sure, which is really nice to see. And we already have election results. There's really no way that this is going to change in terms of which party is going to be leading Parliament at this point. The Liberal Party has managed to actually win, which means that Mark Carney will remain Prime Minister. So I'm personally pleased with that. And then also kind of pleased with, it looks like it's actually going to be by a very small margin. We're talking like by 4 seats. It doesn't look like the Liberal Party actually is going to secure a majority. Meaning that they could pass legislation without having to work and compromise with any other parties. If they got an outright majority, which would be 172 seats in our Canadian Parliament, then that would be enough. They could just pass legislation all on their own as a single party. But it looks like they're going to fall 4 seats short of that, which I don't mind, because that means they have to at least agree with 4 members of a different party that this is legislation that we actually want to pass. They can't just ram everything through. And I don't mind that one bit. So both the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party in Canada actually gained seats from what they had prior, like before we held this election, which meant those seats came at the cost of some of the other smaller parties, which I don't love to see. I don't love to see it becoming really close to a 2-party system, which it's getting dangerously close to being into that sort of territory now. But that's all personal opinion on my end. And overall, that's been the week. It's been a busy week for Rob, but that's the summary. I don't know if Tom's even still there. He might have left.
I did not leave.
Okay.
I did check out mentally for a bit of that. I'm
certain.
But it's okay. Timestamps, people. They're important.
That's right. Yeah.
Let me make sure this thing is still recording, because I tried to mute myself. Because I was typing something. I know it comes through the mic, and I'm sorry about that. But I apologize. But I had to answer an email real quick. So like I said, I did watch the first episode of The Skeleton Crew, which is maligned by people whose whole existence is based on hating anything that isn't, for whatever reason, the prequels. They really love the prequels, but they hate everything else, which is very bizarre to me, because the prequels were just okay.
And they seem to like Andor, right? Andor is on the good side for them.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I don't know. I think that. So I have a lot to say about the state of society and men in general, in this country at least, because that's the country in which I live, and seems to be across more. It's maybe infecting other parts of the world, but I will refrain from doing that right now. But I will say the Skeleton Crew, if you are like me and you grew up in the heyday of Steven Spielberg, and remember going to the movies and seeing E.T. and seeing Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and some of these other movies that he came out with, even the early Indiana Jones stuff and all of that.
Okay.
There is a feeling to this that is like that to me. It has that sort of ambiance. There's just like the cinematography feels that way. There's lots of it has a sort of whimsy to it. The first episode, the kids or whatever, and there's a little elephant dude who's, I'm sure he's not called the little elephant dude, but that's what he looks like. So whatever.
That was like the keyboard player, that species.
Yes, that species.
That
yes,
race. Yeah.
Yes, and but there's just a sort of like there's an outdoorsy feel to it. It's almost like, to me, it feels a lot like Stranger Things, but for actual kids.
Sure, or like Super 8 along those lines.
Super 8. It has that sort of. I don't know how to describe it, but there's like the cinematography. There's like light going through the trees and mist.
Oh, so you're
and
getting
stuff
the God
and
rays. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that, and to me it felt very reminiscent of that era.
Okay.
And of course, there's kids, and if you're I'm going to keep harkening back to ET because that's what it felt a lot like.
All right.
But of course, I only saw the first episode, and I didn't watch anything else because I have to really fit it in between everything else I am is going through and having to do. My wife decided, I think I talked about it last week, that this last weekend, we were having people over. I'm like, that's a terrible idea. We have a lot to do. You have a lot to do. You're doing a lot. And that means that I will have to do the whole dinner thing, which is fine. But usually it takes more than one person to get a place ready. And listen, I love my wife, but she's not subtle, and she wants to clean the place, and she needs motivation, and that motivation is she's inviting people over, and she does this all the time.
Yep.
And I think that works, and that's fine.
Yeah, it's a reasonable trick. It works. Play that on yourself. It does work.
So we ended up having people over this weekend, and it just wrecked me for the entire weekend. I was just a mess. I was totally exhausted. So anyways, yes, Skeleton Crew first episode. I liked it. I thought it was cute. I thought it was interesting.
Is Jude Law there yet, or does he come later?
Well, he's in a mask. I mean, it's clear which character he plays.
Okay.
But he's in a mask, and I was like, I'm going to be dead honest with you. If I am clearly this would never be the case, but if I had the sort of negotiation power where I could end up on a Star Wars series, I'd be like, listen, is there any way you can give me a mask? I'll only wear it for 5 seconds, but I want to have a mask because you guys are real good at masks, and I would like to have one.
It seems possible. It seems highly probable.
So I think Jude Law was just like, listen, I'll do whatever you want, but you guys got to give me a mask, and it's got to be cool. And it is cool. And so
also very helpful for when they want to do the action scenes. He definitely can be replaced by a stuntman very easily if he's wearing a mask for the action scenes.
So I will watch the rest of it. I'm gonna attempt to watch the rest of it. I know I've not been very good about getting my way all the way through series, but since Agatha was the last one I watched all the way through, but
that's not that long ago.
I'm gonna try. Yeah, that was actually when we were staying at my in-laws' place. I kind of sat there and powered my way through that. So yeah, I thought it was okay. I mean, like I said, I've only seen the first episode, but I thought it was cute. I thought it was interesting. I mean, it wasn't exactly subtle, and the writing wasn't the most. Oh no,
non-subtle writing in Star Wars.
I know.
How dare they?
Like, for all of you that are like romanticizing how great Star Wars was, just go back. And I love Mark Hamill. I love him.
Oh yeah.
I do. I think he's great. But his delivery of the lines at the beginning of Star Wars A New Hope is so atrocious. And I really believe that if he were in the room, he'd go, yeah, it was a little rough. Yeah, it's a little rough. Doesn't mean I don't love him. Doesn't mean I don't love what that series has turned into and what those characters have meant to me personally and to a lot of other people. But it does mean that you can still like a thing and not have it be absolutely perfect. So, we'll see where this goes.
Come and meet the heroic rebels who are fighting the evil empire. Oh, the shades of gray.
I'm sorry. Are they literal space Nazis? They look like literal space Nazis.
A little bit.
We're not going to say that.
Yeah.
But I do say that here in Florida, I do see a lot of the Empire was right sort of stickers on people's cars. Like, boy, and you're wondering why you're single? I mean, I don't know what to tell you. No, who could unravel this mystery of the world?
Well, as promised, I finished the movie Nickel Boys, which I got halfway through last week, which was not the intention, but I finished it up as promised. So this is a very good movie, but it is a downer of a movie. Do not watch this if you're trying to feel better about things. But what I really appreciated in this being such a downer of a movie is that it is in no way maudlin or overt. Like, it is subtle. This is a subtle movie.
Right, sure.
And many of the very key important details are almost blink and you miss it. Like they are not like highlighting or shining a massive spotlight on the things that you need to notice. Things fly by almost like snapshots, because a lot of this is like memory. And it's depicted the way memories really kind of work. As has been described, memories for human beings are more similar to still images than they are like a holographic playback, right? You remember like little moments. You remember how you felt about a certain thing. We're pretty bad at actually remembering every play it through like a video detail of what happened in our lives. We have these little snapshots, and that's sort of what's depicted as this movie goes along. So like I say, it's almost blink and you miss it. Very, very subtle stuff that's going on here. I neglected to mention last time that in addition to this all being shot first person, and we do see everything through two characters' sets of eyes, so it's switching back and forth between the two main characters of Elwood and Turner, but it is all first-person perspective. But the aspect ratio, which I did notice when I was watching the first half, but I just forgot to mention last week, this is a 4:3 aspect ratio movie, so it's got the pillar box bars on the left and right sides. I think appropriate, because this is set in the 60s, so I mean, if you were watching anything in the 60s, it would have been 4:3 aspect ratio, so I'm assuming that's part of why they did this. Now, there is actually a bit of non-linear storytelling as a part of this movie, because we do follow up with one of the main characters getting into. They actually show them in sort of little standalone side dramas in, like, I think part in the 70s and part in the 80s, and I think even into the 90s or 2000s. Again, nothing was really overtly said out loud. You kind of had to piece together what time period you were, but you're getting these little moments of one of the main characters after the events that we're primarily watching in the 1960s, and sort of, seeing the effects that it's had on him, and then one of the other boys who got out of this Nickel Academy, this reform school. And I mean, it's like I say, really, really subtle, nothing overt, but just kind of devastating stuff, really, really affecting. And it occurred to me that it really reminded me of a novel which is kind of required reading in Canada, which is called Obasan, which is the tale of Japanese internment during World War II in Canada. Because we had Japanese internment camps in Canada as well, and this is it's a fictionalized story. Obasan is the novel. It's a fictionalized story, but with very realistic memories and depictions. And yeah, Nickel Boys reminded me a lot of that, because again, it's like they don't do the thing of where like every single second being at Nickel Academy is a living hell. It's not. Like, there's moments when they're having fun. There's moments when they're enjoying like ice cream on a hot day and stuff like that. It's not like they're not trying to go overboard in the idea of like, every second was a living hell, every moment was torture. It's like, no, people found ways to live a pretty close to normal life at a lot of moments, but then it's punctuated by these traumatic moments. And I think that's 10 times more effective than just trying to say it was, pure evil throughout. It's like, no, there are moments of kindness. There are moments when they bond, even with the quote unquote teachers who are there and, restraining them and basically forced labor and all this stuff. It's like there's bonding moments between the boys and those people, because that happens. It's like, that's a real human experience. It was very realistic. And that's why it reminded me of that novel Obasan, because that's the same. It's like, okay, some of the Japanese kids who are either separated from their families or still with their families in the internment camps, it's like sometimes they're cruel to other people or amongst themselves. It's not that they're 100% innocent and the people who intern them are 100% evil. It's like, no, everybody's human beings, and it was really affecting because of how realistic, and because it is this first person, so we're only seeing what these two boys might have realistically seen, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff they're not going to see, so we're not getting that as an audience because we're only ever seeing it through their eyes. So yeah, this is a really, really good movie. It absolutely deserved to be nominated for Best Picture. I'm still probably saying that at this point, out of all the nominees that I've seen, Wicked is probably my favorite. But I mean, completely different types of movies.
Wicked. I mean, give me a break. I mean, they would never give it to Wicked.
Well, because it did so well financially, and but it's just like, there's really no way.
It's a part one. They would. Sure. They never do it. Give it if they know another one's coming, you got zero chance. Because then if you give it to part one, then what's going to happen if part two comes out and it's at least as good, if not better? They got to do it again. They're not going to.
Yeah, that was like the Lord of the Rings thing, right?
Lord of the Rings thing. Yeah, everybody.
We'll give it to Return of the King, but never before that. But yeah, I mean, there's really no way to compare two movies like Wicked and Nickel Boys. They are as different as two movies could possibly be, but both are really, really good. And tremendous. So I mean, with Wicked, I will rewatch that in a heartbeat. I had a blast watching that. Nickel Boys is one of those ones where it's like, that'd be kind of tough to rewatch. Like I kind of got to steel myself before I'm going to rewatch that one. It's not a type of movie where it's like it's not worth a rewatch, but it's like, that's a bit tough. That's a bit tough to get through. So be prepared for that type of thing.
Yeah, with movies like that, and I don't know how you, and by you I mean everybody who's listening to this podcast feels, but it's sometimes so very hard for us to put ourselves in other people's shoes. And I mean, this is a problem of empathy. It's a problem of critical thinking. It's a problem of just spending the time it takes to do that. But like movies like that, there's no part of it that makes me want to watch it. There was a time in my life that I did watch stuff like that because I was trying to get serious about cinema and theater and trying to, understand, all the different blah, blah, blah. But in the end, what it came down to was I think that people who like movies like that are lying. And I can't get past that thought because everything about a movie like that is repulsive to me. I'm like, I've got enough terrible things going on in my life. I don't need to watch terrible things that happen to you.
But it's like Schindler's List, It's
exactly.
like that's a tough watch, and yet obviously you can appreciate the effort and the talent and the filmmaking that went into it. Like the all of that is very apparent in Nickel Boys, which is why I respect it and really appreciate this movie, what they did. And it's like it gets you emotionally, it gets you. Right. I mean, having it first person perspective forces you to be in this character's shoes, right? That's very, very effective to do it that way and quite unique. You don't see the genuine first-person perspective done very often, and then having it switch between two different characters, interesting way of being able to see both of their faces, right? So some unique choices that were done here. But it's not like I'm not watching this to enjoy and have a popcorn good time. Absolutely not. This is a work of art, unquestionably, and there are things that like I noticed, but I know I'm not getting the full value of the. It's not even a juxtaposition. What's the proper word for it when you put two things side by side that, like, they're not opposed to each other, but they're not parallel either. It's just kind of like putting two things side by side, and you got to kind of. There's something where you're like, yeah, these things fit, and yet they don't. I think there's a proper word for doing that. But alongside what's going on with the two boys at the Nickel Academy, being that it's the mid and getting into the later 1960s, there's the space race that's going on, and there's little snippets of footage. Like I was saying, there's all the snippets of footage of Martin Luther King, giving his speeches as well, and that part's obvious. That's the that whole movement going on. That makes perfect sense, showing that in parallel. But everything with the space race, it's like it wasn't just there for flavor and timing. It's like it's showing you. I mean, what the part that I did get overtly right is that it's showing you, it's like, here's sort of the pinnacle of human achievement, and then here is simultaneously what's happening to these two boys in society, honestly, simply because they're black and for no other reason, right? So it's like that juxtaposition I got, but there was more to it that I could feel, but I haven't actually thought my way through it yet, having those scenes side by side.
And don't get me wrong, if you start a movie and I'm sitting there and I start watching it and it's a movie like the one you're describing, it's not like I don't appreciate or enjoy it. I do. I mean, I'm usually I am very good at watching movies. Like if there was an art form of watching movies, I'm the sort of person, like, I get so into it that I will be the person who's like, I'm not the person at the beginning of the movie who goes, oh, that's what it's going to be, this person. I'm like, I don't even think about that. I just lose myself in it and then watch it. And so when I say,
the movie tell its story.
Yeah, when I say that, I think that people who like these movies are lying. It's simply because every time I think about watching a movie like this, I'm like, I don't want to. Now, if I am watching it, I'll be fine watching it, and I will appreciate it, like Rob's saying. But I certainly would never seek it out. And I don't think that people are actually lying. I think some people really appreciate this form of art and really appreciate the emotional journey it takes you through and find that satisfying on some level. Yeah. I do not. I think it's important that we tell these stories, though, because it's history, and the old, if you forget it, you're doomed to repeat it sort of thing is clearly, demonstrably.
There's some evidence that is a true statement.
That seems to be, there's some correlation there. And I know between that saying and things happening, but it's just, to me, it's interesting that there's people can be so different, that some people can find this movie and go, this is exactly what I was looking for. And at the same time, I would watch this movie and go, well, I did it, and I guess I'm glad I did, and I'm never doing it again.
Right.
It's just interesting. This takes all types. That's for sure. All right, let's get into the podcast. This is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV question. To get your question answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. Go to our website, find our shows, show notes, and Flickr albums so you can follow along with photos of which we will be speaking or referencing here. Facebook.com/AVRant podcast, YouTube.com/AVRant. Contact Rob at avrant.com. His socials is at First Reflect. I'm Tom at avrant.com. I don't have socials. I mean, I do, but I don't use them. So good luck. I mean, I'm not that hard to find. Believe me. People are like, oh, I don't want the government to track me. I mean, I have never not used my last name online. I don't know what else to do.
Too late now.
Not that hard to find. I want to thank our listeners of the week to become. Oh crap! I know that we have a PayPal.
Okay.
I didn't look that up. I'm sorry. This is my bad. You're going to hear typing here and maybe a little bit of clicking as I get through this.
Well, in the meantime, you go ahead and do that because in the meantime, I can say we can thank our patrons over at patreon.com. The full address is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation to support this podcast. So we have 133 patrons holding strong over there, and we thank you all very much for your financial support.
Oh, wait. Is it the same person?
I don't know.
No, we have a Bill.
We had Bill last week.
Yes, Lawrence. It looks like Lawrence has sent us something. I think that's the same Lawrence that was a couple of weeks ago.
Maybe so. That's very kind.
Yes, thank you, Lawrence. So this is going to avrant.com, click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and that will send you to a PayPal donation site, which Lawrence did. So thank you, Lawrence. And
very nice. Thank you, Lawrence, for the PayPal donation. Yeah.
Oh, we also got notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going through the Canadian elections, which were an exciting thing that happened. Yay, I guess. Whatever. I saw it. Oh, my son's home. I can hear him coming in the house. Notes of gratitude from Stefan, who hopes we had a great Easter break. It was not great, but it was fine. He thanks me specifically for always keeping it real.
That's right, because I'm a big phony. I'm a giant phony over here, so
that's why we're terrifying the crap out of you. Now the dog wants to go up and say hi. Hey, go lie down. Gurinder, Tony, Brandon, and Art. So Art says no specifics to share, but he had to go through some hard times recently. He found our podcast to be a comfort, and it helped to hear our voices to get him through some of the too quiet moments. So he hopes we keep up our solid work on the podcast and says we are amazing. So thank you to Stefan, Gurinder, Tony, Brandon, and Art for thanking us.
Yeah, and I'll say the names one more time. Stefan, Gurinder, Tony, Brandon, and Art. Thank you so much. Art, very sorry to hear about that. Yeah, that's never a good thing, but sounds like he is muddling his way through, and very kind of you to say that we've been any help whatsoever. That's very nice. I'm glad we can be a comfort at all. That's a nice thing.
It's like, I need some droning in the background for 2+ hours a week just to so I don't have to be in my own head. We got you, Bo. We got you. In the news, sorry, I hit my microphone. Get used to it.
Ah.
In the news, the streaming service Max has joined Netflix and Disney Plus in the crackdown on password sharing. And since the way Netflix did it seemed to work out pretty darn well for them, Max decided to simply copy their approach because nothing says
Imitation.
Highest
form of flattery.
Something like that. Whatever. Whatever tier of Max you subscribe to, you can add one extra member who lives in a different household for an additional $8 a month. If the extra member already has their own profile under your account, they can transfer that existing profile so they don't lose their watch list and viewing history, because that's the important bit. That can't be recreated. Shut up. Whatever streaming quality you subscribe to with your main account, the extra member will get that same quality. The extra member can only have one profile, and they can only use one device at a time. You can only have one extra member. Too bad, second child. Middle child always gets it.
Yep.
And you can only add an extra member if you subscribe to Max on its own directly. If you get Max as part of a bundle or as an add-on to your cable service, no extra member option for you. Just,
Yep.
I mean...
But, if you've got the kid away at college, or, I don't know, you share with your parents who rarely ever watch it, so you're just like, yeah, here, I'll log into my Max account on your system over here. There's like, nope, your different zip codes, you're gonna get slapped. They're gonna tell you, hey, add an extra member instead, or get your completely own separate subscription.
Currently making noise in the background and also lives in Tallahassee. He goes to Sam's occasionally.
Okay.
I guess it's whatever. So he has the Sam's Club card on his phone, as do I.
Sure.
So you can do that. You can have your account card so that you don't have to carry the card around with you, which is good because I gave it to my other son, who just walks in with the card, with his card. So this son just activate, like, because if you transfer devices, the card has to be re-enabled on a different device. It has to be enabled on the device, and then so when he wants to use it, I get a code that says, "Hey, we're switching your card to a different phone. Is that what you want?" And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." I give him the code, and then he puts it in, and then he can use it up in Tallahassee. Okay. And then when I come back here, when I want to go in, because I mean the chances of us using it at the same time are extremely slim.
Sure.
And so it just keeps transferring back and forth on our phones. And you know who cares about that? Nobody. Because why would you? I'm paying for the service. Mm-hmm. I'm using the service. He's using the service. He's getting, he's making purchases or whatever. And frankly, us watching your content, the number of hours that we watch your content is part of your money. That's how you do it. I mean,
the fair side of it is, it's like, if I sign up for a subscription and then I put my password out on the internet,
sure,
and 100,000 people sign up with my username and password, it's like, okay, that ain't right. Like I can be on the company side with that type of thing, right? But yeah the sharing with one kid or one parent or something.
But if for every single new person and new device that tried to sign in, mm-hmm. you had to give a code and and have that person have that code, you couldn't do that. You know what I mean? You couldn't do that. It would be very easy to stop that from happening, because personally, I might do that a couple of times for, my family and friends or whatever. And yes, they'd be losing some money from that. But I'm certainly not going to put it on the internet and have 100,000 people do it, because who's got the time?
And I mean, that was always against the rules. You were never allowed to do that with any of these services, and that for obvious reasons. But yeah, the other little restriction is that the extra member does need to be in the same country as you. So if your kid moves overseas, you can't add them as an extra member at that point. They would have to get their own separate account.
Right. Sure. I guess that makes sense. Okay. At the risk of inviting a flame war into our comments, go on, guys. Knock yourselves out. Please put them on YouTube. The tech website Digital Trends also has a popular YouTube channel, and for many years, the person you'd see most in the Digital Trends YouTube videos was Caleb Denison, who I've never heard of, but I'm sure he's a person.
I definitely am familiar with Caleb Denison. I have very much enjoyed his TV reviews on many, many products.
I guess he did all their TV reviews, and he also provided most of the news coverage from shows like CES and CDA. He also hosted their You Asked weekly question and answer videos. Well, after more than a decade with Digital Trends, and after successfully growing their YouTube subscriber count to over 1.3 million. Caleb decided to strike out on his own and began his self-employed YouTube and social media company, CalebRated. Just one word, CalebRated, whatever.
And it's like CalebRated. You see, yes, it's a slight homonym pun.
I have lost a little respect for him just now. I'm sorry, Caleb.
Starting from I don't know who you are to slight disrespect.
Now I kind of don't want to know who you are. That's where we fell. We fell from I didn't know you existed to now I wish I still didn't know you existed.
Good grief. I think you'd actually like him. He seems like a pretty darn stand-up straight shooter guy.
All right. Well, he's going to have to really overcome this name. I'm going to be honest with you. So he launched his new YouTube channel last week with nothing but a welcome video to explain his new venture and having departed Digital Trends. And after instantly gaining over 30,000 subscribers, he posted a thank you video and teased that his first TV review would be the new 115-inch TCL QM7K, plus a report on the newest Roku TV models. For their part, Digital Trends posted their weekly You Asked video with new hosts, and they said that Caleb's departure was amicable and they wish him well. And then everything went sideways. I don't want to have to say this. CalebRated's, now I can't not see it. But I wish you hadn't said anything.
Okay, that's my fault. I'm sorry.
It's clearly Canadians starting stuff again.
That's right.
CalebRated's only 2 videos were hit with copyright strikes and taken down. And those copyright strikes came from, you guessed it, Digital Trends.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, at first, it seemed appropriate to give Digital Trends the benefit of the doubt. Many of their videos, most of which feature Caleb, have been pirated and posted without consent on other YouTube and social media channels just to drum up clicks. So it seemed entirely possible this was all just the fault of an automated system, which is what I was going to say before I read this, with no actual malice or ill intention or even manual action taken. But then Caleb himself posted on Threads. I appreciate everyone's patience, understanding, and support while I navigate a pretty ugly, petty situation. I'll update as I'm able, but for now, do whatever your heart leads you to do. I'm not here to put the finger on the scale yet. More to come. There's a GoFundMe if you want to help in that way. Not hard to find. All right. Well, I mean, you could have just linked it. That would have been even easier. CalebRated. We do not have any insider information. And we do not have a statement from Digital Trends, so no conclusions being drawn from us. According to a source quoted by Acoustics, Digital Trends has made claims that Caleb might have breached IP assignment and non-solicitation agreements by using some footage shot using company equipment, talking to potential advertisers while still employed by Digital Trends, and registering his new company's name while still on their payroll. I mean, yeah, he did all that. No offense.
Well, I mean,
okay, guess what? You would have too. This is how you get out of the job that you're currently in, by working yourself into it. Now, did he do it at work during a company time?
Right. Yes.
No. Did they send him equipment that he uses to film stuff, and then he used that same equipment on a weekend or a different time to do these things?
There was no evidence, because I saw the videos that he did post before they got taken down. I'm like, there was no footage from Digital Trends in those things. It was just a welcome video, like, hey, I'm here, here's my new channel, and then, hey, thanks for subscribing. Like, there was no footage, so I don't know where that claim's coming from. But I mean, we don't even know for sure that was. That's like a source that talked to another website behind it. Yeah, so we won't cast any aspersions that way.
I'm not saying. I mean. It's a silly thing, but I'm sure they sent him equipment that he used, or he got equipment as part of his position here.
Oh, well, certainly while he was working there,
and then he filmed himself on that equipment. They're like, well, that's maybe our footage or whatever. You can make all these statements, but or these claims, but the reality is, shut up. I've had the same sort of, I've seen this happen multiple times with people who are like, anything you do tangentially related to what you do for us is ours. Right. Even though you did it on the weekends with your own stuff and with your own time and with your own people and equipment that we gave you and told you was yours and that we don't want back, but now you can't use it for anything else. It's just,
it can be really tricky working for a media company. It's not an easy thing to untangle that web.
Egos are tough. But from Caleb's statement on Threads, it certainly seems that, at least on his side, this is not just an error from an automated system. And for now, there are no videos on the CalebRated YouTube channel. Caleb, I'm trying real hard to be on your side here, bud. And his TikTok and other social media channels have his teaser video where he announces the beginning of CalebRated, but not the official welcome video or anything else. Sound and Vision posted a summary of the situation, including more details of what Digital Trends is claiming led to their takedown notice filed under a DMCA.
The Digital Millennium Copyright Act in the United States. That's what that stands for.
I have lots of thoughts about people who have worked for, in this industry and then have left for one reason or another to go out on their own. I wonder where I could have gotten these opinions from.
Yes.
So I will just say that unless Digital Trends comes up with some ironclad, he pirated stuff. So the one thing that I would be, from Caleb's point of view, or from the one knock I would have against Caleb if it turned out to be true, which I'm not saying it is because I don't have any information more than what I just read to you just now, is setting up these reviews and setting up these products that he says he's going to be talking about. It's hard to do that and not have there be overlap with who you worked with in the past. Yeah. So, how do you take off one hat and put on another, and how do you delineate these things? What a lot of times people do is like, listen, this is a call that I'm making, that we're talking about Digital Trends stuff. I'm going to now, I'm now no longer them. I'm talking from
take
this
off
other
that
thing.
Hat, put on the new hat. Yes.
Even making it, let me call you on the weekend. Let me call you at a different time. Let me call you at, after 5 p.m. or something like that. And
or
we'll talk about this
email
other
you
thing.
from my personal account and not from my work account. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All those things.
It is still the same person. It's still the same contact. Yeah. And you met that person through the company that you used to work for. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a web that, like, how do you untangle that? Yeah,
you don't, and you can't. And they just end up looking terrible for trying to make you,
well,
because they
and
can't
this is
prove
the thing.
it.
It's like he is a one-man operation, and they are a multi-million-dollar company, and they're like, you put up a new YouTube channel, slap, and it's like, that's not the greatest look, I'm just talking emotionally, right? I'm just talking to the layman viewer who has no idea about the legality of anything. It's just like, because now the thing is, when you go to, because there are still links online to his welcome video, at other websites, and so those just say, this video is no longer available, but it actually says, YouTube's own thing is this video is no longer available because of a copyright claim made by Digital Trends. It's right there in the thing. So it's there's no mystery of who got this taken down. So yeah, it's just not a great look for them, right?
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. And I don't blame Caleb for wanting to, because at some point, you're making a lot of money for the
14 years there, and he's been saying it was always his dream to set up his own channel and do his own thing. But, when the opportunity 15 years ago was there to get in with an established tech website, he went that route. It's who can be blamed for that? Right? It's so yeah. Anyway, let's get going. We're not going to get to any questions this week at this rate.
That's all right. We can not have any questions this week. That's fine. In the comments, let's talk more about politics. Comments. Alan last week. Alan asked us whether the offer he received in his email from Sofabaton might actually be legitimate, not a scam. The email said they used a provided link to buy a brand new Sofabaton X1S remote from Amazon, then send the receipt to Sofabaton, and they would refund his full purchase price to his PayPal account. Free remote, if true. But obviously sounded too good to be true. But after our advice to contact Sofabaton directly via their live chat service on their website, and Rob saying that Sofabaton has used this method with reviewers and influencers in the past, he double-checked, and now he has an update. It was legitimate.
Legitimate!
They wanted him to post a user review on Amazon and send them a copy of the invoice, and as soon as he did that, they refunded him the full amount. He's now got an X1S he's got an X1S now for free. Not bad at all. Kind of crazy. That's... I mean, it's buying reviews. It's what it is.
That's a little iffy, isn't it?
Yeah, you're buying reviews, and you're buying reviews from people that have either posted good reviews in the past or...
Yeah, because he was already an X1 owner from the original Kickstarter all the way back then. Yeah.
So if he's one of these X1 Kickstarters, and you say, hey, we'll give you a free remote if you give us a review, guess what? You're not, even if it's free, if you didn't like the first one, you're not going to say yes to another one.
And there was no indication from them that it wasn't like it needs to be a positive review or we won't refund it. They're just like, post your user review and like just that. So he could have said bad things about it. They had no control over that.
He could have, but statistically, he's not even going to, like, why would you get a bad product in? Believe me, I know. Yeah. As somebody who reviews products, reviewing a bad product is awful. It's awful for everybody involved. They don't like the review. You don't like having to deal with their product, however good or bad it might be. So take my word for it. Yes, this was a very safe play on their part. But yeah, whatever. I mean, you got to get reviews somehow, and it's nice to have some positive stuff in the can there ready to go.
Main thing, it wasn't a scam, so that's the good news. It wasn't a scam.
There you go. So if you got that email, get yourself a free one. Question, Sebastian. Sebastian says he moved to the UK in 2007. Oh, we're out of time. All right, so next week.
It would be if we were on Teams.
On Teams, we'd have to be done. Sebastian says he moved to the UK in 2007. A couple of years ago, he decided to buy himself a turntable. That quickly resulted in him upgrading from just a stereo pair of speakers to a full surround sound setup for audio and video. I have bad news about surround sound and turntables, but other than that, I guess this is fine.
You can upmix.
He bought all of his gear used via Facebook Marketplace and eBay. Once he realized he could put together a full system without breaking the bank, the purchases happened quickly. He wound up with a Denon X2200W 7-channel receiver with Q Acoustics 3000 series speakers all around. He got a REL HT1205 sub, which is sealed 12-inch 500 watts, and an Apple TV 4K. For his dedicated music sources, he got a Denon Professional, not the amateur crap, the Denon Professional DN500 Blu-ray player. That must be an overseas thing because I don't recognize that, but maybe maybe it's just been too long. And a Rega planar limited edition turntable along with a Project Phono preamp. Project, it's got a hyphen, that's why I have to say it that way. Sorry.
It is. That's correct.
He has plans to upgrade a 65-inch LG LCD TV to an 83-inch OLED, but he needs to save up a bit more money before making that purchase because those are still expensive no matter what. It's hard. It's
a little bit of money on the 83-inchers still, yep.
Yeah. So while his setup tops out at 5.1.2 right now, he's been enjoying Atmos for both movies and music, and they are going to be adding an extension to their house. Construction is set to start next month, and we'd like to get our advice on several aspects of the setup. The new addition of the house will be roughly 23 by 28 feet, and the part that attaches to the house is about 20 feet front to back, and then expands to 23 feet at about the 15-foot mark, along with the 28 width of the addition. So it's slightly L-shaped, and the theater area will take up a bit more than half of the 28-inch width of the entire room.
Foot. 28-inch width would be a very narrow addition.
That's right. Foot, sorry. Width of the entire room. This is a shared space and not completely dedicated theater. You will need to see the picture. So go to AVRant.com, look on the Flickr album, or if you're not on YouTube, get on YouTube and it'll be there. So this is the better way to describe this is he's in meters. He's throwing me off here. It's basically like 28 by, is it 23? 20, I mean, it's the 20 by 23 with a little bit of a bump in at one side. So
sure,
still essentially.
Or 28 by 20 with a tiny little bit of a bump out at the end that's farthest away from the house that currently stands.
Yeah. Right, and I can't even see where the house is. But whatever, it doesn't matter.
It's on the right-hand side of the diagram is the house. Left-hand side will be a new patio.
That's what that is. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it. And it's turned in different directions. There's all kind of freaking renders here.
Yeah, there's
so you're gonna have to
3D renders, but yeah.
So he wants to expand to a 5.2.4 configuration after the new room is built. His first question. He already bought 2 pair of Focal 100 in-ceiling speakers since he found a good deal for them on eBay, but there's still time to buy different in-ceiling speakers if we think Focal 100 models would be a terrible choice for Atmos. I don't think literally anything is a terrible choice for Atmos.
And those are a completely perfectly fine in-ceiling speaker. If you got a good deal on those used, they're a great speaker, in-ceiling speaker to use for Atmos. Yeah, no problem there.
So do we think the Focal in-ceiling speakers will be okay? Rob just agreed with me that yes, they will. And if so, does he need to enclose them? Need?
Well, actually,
maybe.
Being in the UK, yeah. In the UK, they have stricter fire safety codes than the building codes in the US, and even some of the ones that we have in Canada. The stricter fire safety codes, so you do need an enclosure. Anything that you're cutting the hole in the fire break, which is the drywall, and then what is on the other side of that drywall has any sort of shared space with anything else, which the attic space above there is going to count. You do need, at the very least, a fire hood, and thankfully for you, it's actually way easier to get in-ceiling speaker enclosures in the UK because these fire hoods are required. And even though these are like flexible, and usually the outside is just canvas and then there's some insulation on the inside, while they don't block quite as much sound as a solid box, which you could construct if you're really worried about soundproofing, but there's nothing above this edition, and the theater is kind of on the far end of this edition. So I don't really think the sound transmission is a terrible worry. And then these flexible fire hoods, they do muffle some of the sound that's going up into that attic space. Anyway, it's a far sight better than just having an open back on that. So you're required to enclose it, and then thankfully it's easy to do so in the UK. I'm just showing an Amazon link for a variety of these fire hoods that you have as an example, but you can get them from any place in the UK that works for you at whatever price you want. So yeah, yes, you do need to enclose them. Simple answer.
Yeah. He is happy with his Q acoustic speakers, and he's been happy with his REL HT1205 sub, but since he wants to expand his 5.2.4 at the very least, he needs to buy a new receiver that can handle at least 9 speaker channels, and he needs to buy a second sub. He is determined to keep his streak going of scoring deals on used or B-stock gear, so we can offer him a few different AV receiver model and subwoofer model recommendations to keep an eye out for. So 9 channels, right? So that's like the 4000 series back in the day, or the 3000 series now, I think is how that works out. Is that right?
If you're talking about Denon, then the X3800H right now, that comes with 9 amplifiers built in. It can be expanded to process as many as 11 speakers, but it comes with 9 amplifiers built in, does the Denon X3800H.
Right.
And that is going to be probably one of the most cost-effective choices over in the UK, because an alternative would be from Onkyo. They are still selling the TXNR 7100 model, but yeah, over there, I don't know a great place to point you for refurbished, and he's looking for used anyway. Yeah. So, a few different models. So keeping in mind the Denon X3800H for sure, keeping in mind the Onkyo NR7100. One key difference there, though, is the Onkyo 7100. It stops at 9. It cannot be expanded to 11 the way the Denon X3800H can. And the NR7100 from Onkyo does not have any speaker pre-outs, whereas the Denon X3800H does have a full set, in fact, 11 speakers worth of pre-outs. So if you ever wanted to add external amplification or expand from 9 to 11, the Denon X3800H lets you do that. The Onkyo NR7100 does not. You are powering 9 speakers with the Onkyo itself and nothing more than that. Yeah. But those aren't the only models, because sometimes the models that are a step above those ones, even though they were more expensive brand new, sometimes when you're shopping used exclusively, if more of those models sold, sometimes there's more of them available to buy used. And a key one there would be the Onkyo RZ50. The RZ50 was a really popular model. It has 9 amplifiers built in, but can expand to 11 speakers, and it does have a full set of pre-outs. And that RZ50, like I said, was a really popular Onkyo model.
Which means
there's a very good chance. That's right. Well, also, especially because it's now been replaced by the RZ70. Right. So anybody who was upgrading, an Onkyo fan was upgrading, I think there's a good chance you could find a used RZ50 at a good price. So that's definitely one to keep in mind. And then over in Denon's lineup, there's no reason if you find a great deal on an X4800H instead of the X3800H, like the X4800H is another great choice with almost the exact same features as the 3800H. Its amplifiers are a little bit more powerful, and it has some extra, it's got component video inputs that the X3800H doesn't have. It's like those are kind of the only main differences. But yeah, those would be 4 receiver models to keep an eye out on for sure. One other key difference, the Denons come with Odyssey.
Right,
with the option of paying extra to add Dirac to them. The Onkyos, the 2 that I mentioned, the NR7100 and the RZ50, they come with Dirac already built in, no extra price. So that's a difference in room correction between the 2 brands.
So as far as subwoofers go, this is not a huge room. I don't really know how big this, how well this REL is going to hold up in here.
I mean, I'm not like worried about using the REL that he already has in this room. Like maybe it's not it's not getting you 115 decibels at 20 hertz. Like, a sealed 12-inch sub is not going to do that. But I mean, like, this is not a dedicated, blacked out theater room. Does he want 115
Looks like he's got
decibels in here?
Doors there too.
Yes, I really kind of doubt that he's going for that type of, sound pressure level.
Right.
So, if I'm talking, what do I think a normal person would enjoy in this room? I think the REL that he already has is quite reasonable. So for that reason,
you can just get one that has similar specs.
Exactly. I mean, obviously, if you can find an identical second REL sub, great. That's going to work perfectly fine. But for some alternative shopping used from SVS, they're sealed 2000 series, right? So an SB2000 or an SB2000 Pro, going to be really similar performance to the REL that you already have. And then in the UK, a brand that we've mentioned is BK Electronics. There's often much better deals just price-wise, specifically in the UK for BK Electronics subwoofers. So the one that would match most closely would be their XXLS 400. That is the sealed 400-watt 12-inch model from BK Electronics, but really, really similar performance to the REL that you already have. And one other alternative that might come in at a good price is Tone Winner's SWD2000. It's another similarly sized box. It actually is vented, that Tone Winner. It's got a slot port on the back of it, but it's another 12-inch, I think 400-watt subwoofer there with a similar cabinet size. So, that's 4 alternatives plus keeping an eye out for a second identical REL subwoofer. So if you find any of those used, they'd be a great companion.
Yeah, I linked up an article that I wrote. I think I wrote it. Did I write it? I think I did. Yeah, I did. About the size of subwoofer, and it links over to that AV Forums size chart, and I'm looking to see if REL is on here. I don't see REL on here anywhere.
Might not be, yeah.
But if you can find something that's similar to the output.
Look at the SB2000. The SB2000 from SVS, really similar.
Yeah, and that'll kind of give you an idea of, the subwoofers that are around there, or the kind of subwoofers that you're going to be looking for. There's REL. There it is right there. No, it's a 1500. Okay. That's the, I think didn't go low enough on this thing. I don't see the 12, whatever. But the SB, that's SB.
1205, yeah.
Yeah, I see the REL 1510, which is, I think, quite a bit bigger.
15-inch, 1,000 watts, yeah.
Yeah, so you can kind of give yourself an idea of what you're, based on the ones that Rob's listed here, kind of what size that you should be looking for, or capabilities. So with his current setup, when he plays stereo music from his turntable setup or his Denon professional Blu-ray player, it's got to be a pro, he settled on using stereo listening mode, which utilizes his front towers plus his REL sub with Odyssey set to left-right bypass.
Meaning it's not EQing.
Yeah, I know.
The front.
That's why I'm a little concerned about that. And dynamic EQ turned off. He thinks his front towers have sounded best with this configuration of settings. When he's on the lookout for his new 9-channel AV receiver, are any of our recommended models a particular standout for 2-channel music? No. Because even after settling on his current settings, he's only ever thought his 2-channel music sounds okay. That's the room. Or that's either the room or the I guess, orientation or, the physical
and that's
setup.
a completely different room from this new edition because the new edition hasn't been built yet. So,
I would be not expecting these things to sound the same. Like you cannot extrapolate from what you're hearing now to what you're going to hear in your other room. You're going to move I cannot express to you the absolute devastation on my friend's face when he came and did a shootout with us on tower speakers. He brought a pair of towers that he gave a glowing review to because of all their bass and all of their this and all of their that. And we set them up in this room and he did not like them and he could not handle it. He's like, why do they sound so different in here? Why does it sound so bad compared to how they sounded in my room? I'm like, it's the room. I don't know what to tell you. That's what it is. Your room is acoustically treated, and my room is acoustically treated, but your room is open only on one side. My room is open on both sides. This was way back when I lived in Jacksonville. And
that'll decrease the bass all right.
It does all sorts of different things in these spaces. So if you are doing left-right bypass and you are having them set up in a way, and you think that they only sound okay when, first of all, I understand that part. They only sound okay when they're in the left-right bypass, but that's as good as they can be set. There's something wrong with the setup. That should not be the case. That the Odyssey should always sound better with Odyssey, as far as or DRAC. It's not just Odyssey. Any room correction of reasonable quality, they should always sound better because of the fact that there's a little bit of EQ, should only be a little bit, that is happening. So if you're like, I want to make sure that I've got the best sounding stereo setup I can, make sure that your room is designed in such a way so that you can more optimally set up your speakers so that you're getting good stereo separation and, have the ability to move them around a little bit if you have to. And then also acoustically treat your space. I mean,
that's coming up next.
Yeah.
Yep, that's coming up next. So I'll just mention out of the receivers that I recommended there, the Denon models, they have a separate 2-channel settings.
Yes.
So if you do decide that you want to have different Odyssey settings, different crossover settings, all that sort of thing, specifically for the stereo listening mode, there's a separate 2-channel listening mode on the Denons. On the Onkyos, you can effectively do the same thing just by a slightly different method, which is that when you do DRAC, you can set up 3 separate DRAC profiles. So you can have profile 1 is full surround sound with one version of correction, and profile 2 is for stereo only with a different set of corrections. So both of them can do that if that's what you want to do, just by slightly different methods is all.
Right. Why is there a person Is there a person sitting in the back of this room in these pictures?
There, just to show that there is a computer desk going to be at the back of the room.
I'm like trying to figure. Is that his main sitting position? That's weird.
Nope. Computer desk.
Okay, so what's our recommendation to him for acoustically treating his new room? He will have a huge. He will have a large rug under the sofa. I mean, not just under the sofa. That's weird. I imagine it will be under the sofa and also under other parts of like where you walk between you and the TV, I hope. He will have blackout curtains over the windows on what will be the right-hand side of the theater area. It's actually on the right behind the couch. The back wall of the theater area will have bookcases and a desk for use as a small home office space. And then the left side is open to the rest of the room, which will have a large table and then a door into the room from the floor level and a set of stairs going up. How best to acoustically treat this space? So those curtains aren't doing crap. I just cannot tell you how irritated I am by the thought of curtains.
The fully blackout curtains are absorbing a little bit of the highest frequencies.
Yeah.
They're taming that. And same with the rug. The rug and the curtains together are absorbing a little bit of the highest frequencies, but nothing else.
And you can see this rug is just barely, because the couch just got...
that is just a rendering, so I'm sure that's not exactly the size.
Right,
yeah. So,
right now I see acoustic panels, like, it looks like those acoustic panels on that back wall, like a couple.
That's a bookcase. That's a bookcase
to
on
the side
back
of the... I don't know, is that a door?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what that is. And then there's, maybe that's art.
The sort of slat things that are on there,
and the
which would be great places to put acoustic panels, by the way. Yeah.
So the right wall has a sliding glass door behind the couch and then windows in front of the couch on the right wall.
That's right.
Okay. So yes, blackout curtains are going to be not necessarily necessary. Like okay. So I understand the idea that people are like, I want to be able to black this place out. I understand that. And I will tell you that my home theater, when I had one, it was blacked out all the time. Like it was never not blacked out. There was never any, like I almost never opened up the curtains. And when I did, I was always like, oh, this is dusty. I'm going to close this again. So, you know what I mean? It was, oh, I don't like that. So if this is a functional room where you're going to be going in and out, you have this patio and stuff like that, just don't kill yourself trying to black this thing out. Just, understand that during the day there's going to be some glare or whatever on the TV, and then go on with your life. That's my personal thing.
I don't mind having curtains over there that can be drawn, but maybe they don't have to be pitch black. That's fine. But yeah, as to treat the room here, so that space that you do have on the right side wall there, treat that as heavily as you can, because you have no wall on the left for this theater area. So look, I'm not going to be telling you, put panels over the windows, that type of thing. This is a living space. Let's work in the real world. But you have a stretch of wall that's in between the windows and the sliding glass doors. So treat that as heavily as you can. Front wall, treat that whole front wall. I mean, as thick as you can, as much as you can. There's no reason why. Yeah, all behind the speakers. If you can have that wall-mounted TV on an extending mount or have it standing on the credenza instead, like treat that whole front wall. And then on the back wall, you're going to have these bookcases. Is there any chance that like behind the bookcases, you can put some insulation there, or even like within make it extra deep bookcases and then within the cavities of the bookcase, because that actually gives you like a combo scattering and absorption if you do that. And then, of course, visually hides it because you're going to have all the books in the bookcases in front of that absorption. So it's front wall, back wall, the right side wall, and that'll be really good at just getting the overall decay times in this room.
You get some of these corners, or even the corners near the ceiling, where the wall and the ceiling meets, like a soffit or something up there, that would be good. Yeah. It's just going to need, with that right wall, it's going to be reflective. That right wall, no matter how much acoustic paneling you put in those little spaces, the rest of it's all going to be very reflective. So there's only so much you're really going to be able to do over there.
But you can very noticeably knock down the overall decay times if you do that.
Yeah, but getting the left speaker and the right speaker, the silent identical, is going to be a little tough. Yeah. Yes, I agree with all that. I have to school. And so acoustic, how to best acoustically treat the space as much as possible. I just don't know, because it's got like a table and chairs in here. So is this also a dining area? I'm a little confused as to what it is.
I think it's like a games area over there. That's
which would be great if that were the case. Then just paint the walls like a darker gray color, a light gray, just gray. Just pick one of the gray colors that we talk about all the time in here, and then put like red acoustic panels on the wall. You know what I mean? Like a nice deep red to kind of like be like an accent color throughout this entire thing. I think that would look, or blue. Blue also really works against gray, I think. Any color does, but those are the two that I would do. And then just make it be like, hey, not only do I have acoustic panels, but they're a statement. Mm-hmm. They're part of the decor of this space. And it'll make a big difference. When you're playing games in there, when you're doing board games and people are getting loud and rowdy, you can get a massive headache from that. So this will really help with that. So any other suggestions regarding speaker placement and subwoofer placement, or anything else that leaps to mind? Your subs are placed dumb. And he was thinking that it's diagonally opposite, but was only looking at the theater area and not the entire. So if you look at these, if you look at this, he's got a sub in the back corner of the theater space.
Yeah, the rear left corner of the theater area. Yeah, rear left corner of the theater area.
Which is actually almost midpoint of the overall width of this room.
That's right.
Almost midpoint. It's a little bit to the, let's call it left of center of the midpoint of this room. Just looking at it. So he's got his other sub in the front right corner of the theater space, which is the absolute right corner of the entire area.
And this is a simple fix. A simple fix. Just move that subwoofer from the front wall over to the left-hand side of the theater area, like basically directly across from the subwoofer that's at the back of the room. And now they're basically in the middle of the total front wall and pretty close to the middle of the total back wall. And that's going to work really well.
If this drawing is accurate, I would actually put this on the front sub on the outside of your left speaker, left speaker. just on the outside. That would put it just a little bit to the, I guess, left of center of the entire space.
Yeah.
And then the back one would be a little bit to the right of center. I don't know, just whatever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They're just a little offset from each other because that's the biggest one.
Because if you do, what is basically the middle of the total front wall, middle of the total back wall, that's good placement, and that looks absolutely doable in these renderings because you're literally just taking that front sub and moving it to the other side of the TV.
Yeah. And I do like where your main speakers are placed. They're basically in front of the arms of your couch. Yep. It would be nice if you could get that first reflection point of your front right speaker to be blowing into an acoustic panel of some sort, even if it were
Windows are there, so that might be a little bit tough, but...
Might be. So I don't know how accurate the windows are, or they're going to be this big. Sometimes they look small. Maybe you can cheat it, the angles of it a little bit, angle it in a little bit. You can do the cross-firing speaker placement.
Heavy toe in. Yeah.
The heavy toe in would make the first reflection point actually be kind of behind that second window, and on that little that one space of wall where you can fit an acoustic panel might be something to try out. But setup is easy. So that's the thing. If you have a little bit of flexibility with the placement of your speakers as far as their angles and widths, which looks like you will in here, then and especially if you move that subwoofer, because then you can move that right speaker around a whole bunch. You'll be able to kind of play with it and just see what sounds best. In the end, if you don't come back saying, I think it now sounds better with this different Odyssey setting, this, I like the dynamic EQ on, and Odyssey just being regular Odyssey, and that I would be surprised if you don't say that. Stefan. Let's go with Stefan. Can there be a big difference between Ultra HD Blu-ray players? He often notices the Panasonic UB820 and a couple of other even more expensive players being mentioned for how they enhance the image quality or are superior to other players in some way. He already owns a Sony X700 player. Would be worth his while to replace it. So what would make an Ultra HD Blu-ray player better than another one? Well, Dolby Vision integration would be the biggest one in my mind, and that would be because it automatically goes to Dolby Vision without you having to turn something on.
That is the big difference between the Sony X700 that you have, which does work with Dolby Vision, but you have to manually turn it on and off, which is bizarre, and I don't know why Sony has never been able to update or fix that, but that is a usability difference. It's not actually a functional difference because your player can output Dolby Vision, but it's just a usability difference in that the Panasonic player automatically switches Dolby Vision on and off as appropriate based on the disc you're playing. A very strange difference, but that is a difference.
And then the other thing I would be concerned about with an Ultra HD Blu-ray player is frame-by-frame dynamic tone mapping.
Well, none of them have that. None of them have frame-by-frame dynamic tone mapping. None of the players do.
Yeah, so there you go. That's really kind of the thing. I mean, I guess
build quality, just build quality overall. There can be a feel to it. But yeah, no.
How many times are you over there picking up your Blu-ray playing? Oh, this thing's so heavy.
Right. The enhancement that the Panasonic UB820 specifically does is not frame-by-frame dynamic tone mapping, but it does do what I would call tone mapping. They call it their HDR optimizer. So that's a feature that the UB820 has that your X700 Sony does not have, which is that if you're using a display, particularly a projector that very clearly cannot get to 1,000 nits, but even if you're talking like a modern fairly recent, like maybe a 2-year-old OLED that got to like 800 nits, you can set the Panasonic player to never output more than 1,000 or more than 750 or something along those lines. It pre-tone maps it. It's not frame by frame. It's just doing regular, one set of metadata, static metadata, tone mapping, just like the display would do itself. But on some displays, particularly projectors, if you feed it the full 2,000 or 4,000 or potentially 10,000 nits, it just like, it'll tone map up to about the 1,000 nit mark and then just clip everything above that. A lot of projectors do that. Whereas the Panasonic will actually try to retain highlight detail all the way up to the 2,000, 4,000 nit mark. So pre-tone mapping it down to something that your display can handle is an enhancement that can be noticeable. But if you've got a display that handles 1,000 nits like readily, then you're probably never going to see the difference anyway. So Can there be differences between Ultra HD Blu-ray players? Yes. Technically, there are actual objective differences, but whether you actually need any of those differences very much depends on your display.
So one of the things that you have to think about when somebody's talking about how something is universally better than something else is it simply because of the price? And it's almost always the case.
Or it's just the one that they bought.
Yeah. Well, that's true too. But with reviewers, they are often incentivized either psychologically or monetarily to think that the more expensive one is the better one no matter what. And they'll find a reason that maybe even makes sense. Like, oh, if you've got this and you've got that, then this is the one for you. That's true, but very few people have that. Like what Rob's talking about with the projector. You have to have a projector, you have to care about Dolby, or you have to have a projector for the tone map, not tone mapping, but the light output, the lumens or whatever. And then you have to care about Dolby Vision, which some people don't, or you have to not.
Yeah, if you got a Samsung, you don't care about having a Panasonic player attached because they don't do Dolby Vision at all if you got a Samsung TV.
Yeah. So, I mean, is one universally better? I mean, you could say that, this car is universally better than, all these other cars for one reason, but if you're never going to drive over 200 miles an hour, then who cares? Do either of us use a projector? If so, was our projection set up? I mean, I did until right before frickin' the flood, where I got an OLED, and I had a Epson something. I can't remember what it was. UB 6040 maybe or something.
That
it was
sounds
like
about right. Yeah, it was not a 50-50 or 60-50. It was before that. Yeah,
it was before all that. So 60-20, 60-30, something like that.
Somewhere
it was
in that range. Yeah,
black chassis. So it was one of the more installer type.
It was a 1080p
ones.
Model. It was not doing the wobbling.
It was a 1080p. Yes, and I had a silver ticket. 90-something 2-inch screen. Okay. There you go. Can we share?
I own a projector, which I am not using.
Why do you own a projector?
Well, because I had it for a long time ago. So it was one of the Sharp. I know it's a 12,000. There was some letters before the 12,000. It was a Sharp 12,000. So that's a 1080p DLP projector. I got that back when I had a Sharp 3D TV, and the Sharp projector used the same 3D glasses. But I have not used that projection setup in ages, and I was shooting onto a 92-inch daylight high power screen, which I actually really liked that screen. But yeah, I haven't used a projection setup in ages.
Yeah, there you go. I pressed a button, and now I can get back to the questions there. Can we share our experiences and opinions on using the Sofabaton X1 and or X1S? He is trying to get to hold out for the new Sofabaton X2 model that we've mentioned, but is really itching to get a universal remote, like soon. So could the X1S do the trick, or will it really not be worth it once the X2 comes out? Okay, you have FOMO.
We don't know for sure because we haven't used the X2 yet. We don't know for sure.
So you can go to AV Gadgets. Andrew has reviewed, I think, all of these, and he has lots of experience with them. So the X1, is very problematic as how to get devices into it. And
I wouldn't say very problematic, but it's got some. It's not perfectly smooth.
It's not a smooth thing. It's smooth. It's not smooth enough that my parents. I have one still that survived the flood, and I brought it to my parents' house, and they're like, "Can you set it up?" I'm like, it's like 8 o'clock at night.
A little bit of a hassle.
I don't want to get into this right now. So the X1S, I think, according to Andrew and just about everybody else, is a much better user experience.
If you were going to get one of these before the X2 comes out, definitely get the X1S. Yeah. I know you can find the X1 for a little bit cheaper, but no, get the X1S for sure. It is a nicer remote. Even though the form factor looks identical, it is the nicer remote to use. My personal experience is assuming the X2 works reasonably nicely, I know I'm going to prefer it simply because there is the screen on the X1S up at the top, and that's where you choose at first whether you're controlling an individual device or using activities, just like old Harmony activities. And then once you are into an activity or into a device, then all of the soft buttons are on that top screen because there's a limited number of hard buttons that are below. But to control anything you see on that screen, you have to use a little ball, a little thumb wheel. And that ball only goes up and down, so you're only scrolling up and down, which means that if you need to get down to a soft button that's low on the list, you're scrolling down and down and down. And then you click on that same ball to select whatever you've highlighted. And if you're picturing that once in a while, maybe when you go to click, you accidentally scroll up one and click by accident, or down one and click by accident, yeah, that can happen. And furthermore, to this day, even though I've used my X1 quite a bit, sometimes I still find myself absent-mindedly pressing the up, down, left, right directional pad, because there's the hard buttons for the up, down, left, right directional pad, when I want to navigate something on the remote screen itself. And then I'm like, oh yeah, no, thumb wheel. That's where I do that. And it's like, whoops, I actually accidentally did an up or a down command on whatever device or activity I was controlling, and I didn't mean to do that. So it's all just sort of quality of life. The other thing is, let's say you're controlling a certain activity. Now you want to switch to a different activity. That means you have to go back on the remote's screen. And the back button for the screen is way up at the top of the remote, so it becomes a two-handed operation to do that, and I don't like that. It's just like, it feels bad to have to use two hands on the remote just to go back on the screen to see my list of other activities that I might want to switch to. So is any of this stuff end of the world? Is any of this mean you cannot use it as a universal remote? Absolutely not. But these are all little things that I'm really hoping the X2 with its touch screen is going to improve upon, because once that screen is a touch screen, there's no more thumb wheel, there's no more accidental clicks, and there's no more accidental scrolling. And I don't know where they're going to place the back button, but I hope it's lower or on the screen itself, and I don't know yet.
Dev would like to upgrade his pair of surround speakers. This is a small living room setup. He's currently running a 4.1 configuration using an LG C2 OLED TV, a Denon X3800 O2 receiver, and an HSU VTF3 Mark V sub, and a pair of Send CBM 170 SE bookshelf speakers as this front, left, and right.
That's nice stuff. I like all of those.
Oh,
Tom's rereading.
Where's the 4?
That's just coming up. Surround speakers are next.
Oh, his current surrounds, or I was looking through this list, did I miss them? Are just a pair of very small, single, 2-inch driver satellite speakers. They're positioned right at the 90, plus or minus 90 degrees, and mounted way up high near the ceiling. He's got them aimed at the listening position, and he manually level matched them using an SPL meter. But he often feels like they don't keep up and match well enough to his front speakers, and therefore they aren't really adding much to the experience. They're adding sound. That's something. He'd like to buy a new pair of speakers to replace them. He'd like to position the new surround speakers more ideally. He's willing to use speaker stands, and the surround speakers will be about 7 feet away from the main listening position. He knows he could just get another pair of, well, you've read my mind, another pair of Ascend CBM 170 SE speakers, but they might feel a little too big, and they sort of feel like overkill, although he isn't basing that on anything in particular. Well, what you're basing that on is everyone has always told you that your surround speakers don't need to be as good or as expensive as your front speakers, and they're the same as your front speakers. Then you either underspent for your front speakers, which makes you feel bad, or you're overspending for your rear speakers, which makes you feel bad. And all because some a-hole on Reddit told you so.
But those CBM 170 SEs, they are not small in terms of depth.
No.
Which that part I can picture just being like, they kind of poke out a little bit awkwardly. That very easily could be the case. Yeah.
So he's open to suggestions about which surround speakers to get, and he would also appreciate suggestions for speaker stands. What do we recommend? So before we get into this, I'm going to say that, yes, I agree with you that those Ascend CBMs might be a little bit too physically large. But I want to address the idea that they feel like a waste because or overkill. Let's remember, you're sitting 7 feet away from your surround speakers. The idea that surround speakers don't need to be as powerful is because surround speakers generally are like right there. They're like,
well,
they're
this
like
is only 7 feet away, so they are pretty right there for him.
Yeah, but
they're not.
But a lot of times your front speakers aren't much more than 7 feet away. So in order, you're really by the speakers for how loud they, how loud and low they need to get in order, at your seated position. So if they're 7 feet away, getting slightly larger, and that's probably what your problem is here, slightly larger surround speakers makes sense to me because they need to be able to put out enough sound to have the volume you want at the distance that they will be from you. And I think that that does not mean that your front speakers you're perfectly timbre matched, sir. That would be the argument that you could make. I want to have perfect timbre matching, and sound quality is really important to me. Listen to how much of a geek I am. So that, and I also sound exactly like Rob. And so I think it would be okay. I would also highly recommend you just stay within the Ascend family,
and you can do that while going physically smaller. Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I hope that didn't just screw up my recording. That was very strange. So, oh my God, it's been my recording this entire. I've been hearing myself echo in my own headphones, and it's this entire time. I just figured out what it was, and it was the recording. All right, well, you're going to talk for a long time.
You deal with that.
I'm going to deal with that and go get a drink.
Sounds good. Okay, so sticking with Ascend, you could definitely go with their HTM 200 SE now version 2. You might be a little bit hesitant because they kind of changed some of the components in here, but you'll still get an excellent timbre match. Ascend has not shied away from going for that very neutral, very transparent sound. So these are about 6 inches front to back, so they're physically smaller. They're not going to stick out as much as the CBM 200 SEs. The only quibble here is that they are the exact same price as the CBM 170 SEs, the $368 per pair for the HTM 200 SE version 2. So there's no cost savings here, but if this is about the physical dimensions, then these would absolutely make sense as a choice. Now, the other thing I could say is give Ascend a phone call, because even though they're not listed on their website anymore, there is a chance, I can't promise this, I don't know for sure, but they're really, really nice to talk to over at Ascend. So give them a phone call or an email, shoot an email, and just ask if they have any HTM 200 SE version 1, not version 2, because sometimes they still have some old stock, particularly if you're only looking for one pair and not a large order of a whole bunch. So it's worth just reaching out and asking Ascend. It's like if they've got any of the original HTM 200 SEs version 1, maybe they're selling those at a little bit lower price point, because when they were the model that was available, they were less expensive than the version 2. So that might be one way to do it. Now, if you're just looking for, you want physically smaller and you want less expensive, one I don't mind recommending at all is RSL's smallest bookshelf speaker. Their CG3M bookshelf speaker. They sell these for $105 each. So that's $210 for the pair. That's going to be less expensive than any of the options from Ascend. They're available in either a black or a white finish. They're also about 6 inches from front to back. Just a single tweeter, single woofer with a little front slot port. So if these end up being very close to a wall, no problem there with this design. So that's another one that I would point to, because again, nice neutral sound from only 7 feet away. You got no problem with output capabilities and bass extension with the RSL CG3M. So I think one of those will do you well. As far as speaker stands, I'm going to point you first over to Monoprice. They have their whole Monolith series of speaker stands, and these are really nice speaker stands. For surround speakers, you're going to want to make them a little bit taller, because none of the speakers you're considering are all that tall. If you want them right at ear level, then maybe the 28-inch tall stands will be okay. Depends a little bit on the height of the seat that you're using. But they also have a 32-inch height, which is probably going to be right, because I like to have my surround speakers ever so slightly elevated, just so they have a nice clear line of sight to all 3 seats on the couch, for example. So probably go for that 32-inch size. So in the Monolith series, you've got ones that have like dual tubes for the stand, and that you're going to be looking at about $100 each. So not the cheapest, but these are nice stands. If you're going with those RSL speakers, you're spending almost as much on these stands as you are on the speakers themselves. They also have ones like quad square tubes that are holding things up. That'd be about $110 each for the 32-inch height. But then they also have a less expensive Elements series. Now, these ones, they don't have a 32-inch. They've got a 28-inch for only $72 for a pair. And these would be totally sufficient for either the smaller speaker options. Then if you do want an option for a taller speaker stand, we're talking 36 inches tall, Dayton Audio over at Parts Express. Really nice basic black stands. These Dayton ones can actually be filled with like sand or kitty litter is what we recommend. Put a little plastic bag in there. Kitty litter works really well, up to about the halfway mark in height, so weighs them down really nicely, makes them super, super stable. So the 36-inch tall ones, the Dayton Audio ones from Parts Express, go for $115 for a pair. So pretty reasonably priced there as well, and that's a great selection of speakers and stands for you to consider.
Yeah, you didn't say Sanus, but I would always...
Yeah, that could be. They're going to cost a little bit more.
They're going to cost a little bit more, but I think they're very good looking. And there's one thing to consider with these stands, and I would you only do it once, but putting them together is, while I'm the kind of person who's like, I don't mind if they're cheaper, I'll put them. It'll be easier. If they're a little harder to put together, I can figure it out. After having done it enough times, I think maybe paying a little bit extra to have them go together like really nicely is a lot of times worth it. But you'll have to make that decision. Okay. Tony is an electrician and an AV installer. Well, welcome, sir. This is you are not the electrician part, but the AV installer part. You are in rarefied company here because not a lot of you hang out on this podcast for too long. Because we tell people not to buy your stuff. He's registered. He's a registered Control 4 installer and programmer. He also does a lot of programming for AV systems and lighting. But you know the old saying, the cobbler's children have no shoes. What? Do I know this?
That's a pretty famous saying.
I don't know that I've heard that one, but I get the reference.
It very much applies.
So in his own setup, he spends as little money as possible. Yes, my wife values AV gear zero much. Like, she's like, how much does that stuff cost? I'm like, yeah, we have to start buying stuff now, darling. Not just giving it to me anymore. He is using his single car garage as his home theater space, and every piece of equipment in there has been reclaimed from jobs he's done in the past. So it tends to be pretty good quality stuff, but a bit dated. He's using a JVC projector, but it's an older 1080p model. He's got have I introduced you to Strava? Not Strava, what's it called?
Strato M from Kaleidoscape.
M, that's right.
Kaleidoscape Strato M, 1080p output. Yeah.
There you go. He's got a Class A pre-pro, but it tops out at 7.1. Doesn't have any HDMI inputs whatsoever. He's got a 7. That is old. Well, I guess it's probably not even that old with this Class A. It probably came out last year. He's got a 7-channel amp and in-wall triad speakers, and those are all fine. And the sources are an older Apple TV, an Oppo DVD player, which is you could probably pay for a whole new system with that if you sold it on eBay. And there's a PD network player. He did install his own Control 4 system to manage everything. Well, I would hope so, sir.
Yeah, that is what he does. But then again, like you say, there's so many handyman people who like their own house. It's like all the little things that they're hired to do never gets done at their own house.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I do change my own tubes on my bike too. So, let's all stop humble bragging over here. So the main thing he wants to upgrade right now is his pre-pro, and he's totally fine getting an AV receiver. Instead, he wants to finally upgrade to an Atmos setup, although he's only planning on a single pair of overhead speakers at the moment because he got a pair of in-ceiling speakers on hand that he can install right away. He definitely wants HDMI. Well, that's setting the bar pretty dang low because, if you want Atmos, you're going to get HDMI.
That is true. Yes.
Atmos came out post HDMI. And since he's only been using an optical connection, he's eager to finally go beyond just 5.1. You have already gone beyond 5. You could have with up conversion, but anyways. At minimum, he wants a 9.1 channel AV receiver. He's willing to spend up to €1,500, but spending less would be great, of course. He gets discounts on NAD and NAD would be great, and Arkham products, but he still doesn't want to pay that much. So he's been looking at Denon Marine.
Yup.
I get it, wholesale prices, but nope.
Yeah, fair enough.
Dude, I am with you.
I'm sure he can get wholesale prices on big brands like Denon and Marantz as well. That shouldn't be a problem if he's an AV installer.
So he's been looking at Denon and Marantz, but he hasn't been able to make a decision for like 2 years now, and he's coming to us to tell him what to finally buy and give him the push he needs. So which receiver is it? What should he buy? Didn't we just talk about this? We should get the 3800H,
You should get the 3800H. Yeah, in yours
That's
case,
the short version.
The pre letters will be the AVC because over in Europe they call it AVC instead of AVR. But yeah, it's going to be the X3800H from Denon. Even if you bought it retail from Amazon, like Amazon Germany or Amazon France, that place that listed, €980 is the full retail price on Amazon in Europe. So that's well under €1,500. And like I'm saying, I'm assuming either you directly as an AV installer or through contacts that you can probably get these wholesale. So, I mean, like I mentioned, the alternative would be Onkyo's TX-NR7100. The limitation there, though, is you already own a 7-channel amp. You cannot connect that external amp to the Onkyo 7100. Right. So there's the Onkyo.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, there's the Onkyo RZ50. But if you're buying that retail, it's €1,600. But you can probably get it discounted from that. But there's not really much feature reason to do that instead of the Denon X3800H, which for sure you can get for less money than you've said you're willing to spend. So X3800H, if you end up wanting to expand to 11 speakers, you can. You already own a 7-channel amp, so there's absolutely no problem taking that thing to 11 speakers if you want to. You power your 4 overhead speakers if you end up with 4 at some point with the built-in amps of the AV receiver, and power the 7 floor level speakers if you end up with that many with the external amp that you already own. You're all set. So Denon X3800H, go get one. You'll be happy.
I agree.
I really want to get down to 8 today. And these are short, so I think we can do it.
All right. Cody recently got himself a sit-stand desk for his computer setup. It's got a 30 by 60 inch surface, and his computer setup consists of 3 laptops plus 3 external monitors, as well as some accessory devices. Mm-hmm. He wants to get a surge protector or power strip that can easily be mounted to the underside of his. You can mount anything to anything if you try hard enough.
True.
Underside of his desk, and he isn't really looking for battery backup. If the power cuts out, his laptops just switch to their own internal batteries. Makes sense.
Yeah.
He's already using 9 plugs, so he'd like to get something with a bit of room to expand, maybe 12 outlets. He's sort of intrigued by the 3-foot-long power strips that are designed for equipment racks, but it doesn't have to be that style. He's open to suggestions. We have your recommendations. So any surge protector, most surge protectors have like keyhole mounts on the back. Those little,
not literally all those, so it's worth a double check. But yes, many
most,
do.
But whatever. Yeah, so you could just literally put some screws into the bottom of your stand desk and just mount a couple of them. And
or even
can you daisy chain those things. I don't see why you couldn't just daisy chain them.
You could, if it's just a surge protector, you could do that. And if it's like, let's say it's a metal desk, right? There are the adhesive. It's just the nub that simulates the end of a screw that you would put in, and you can use that with a keyhole mount as well, right? Yeah. You got those 3M command strip, but it's just the little nub for exactly this type of mounting. So there is a way to mount to the underside of your desk. I'm going to recommend to you, no surprise, APC. APC is going to be my go-to company for anything surge protection related because they actually do it right. And yes, it is just metal oxide varistors in there providing the surge protection, but once that actually trips, it then shuts things down so that surges cannot get to your actual equipment that you care about, and it sacrifices itself in that way, and that's the right way to do things. So the unit I'm going to suggest to you is the Surge Arrest P11. There are 3 different varieties of the P11. There's one that has coax surge protection as well. There's one that has coax and phone line protection, and then there's one that has coax, phone line, and Ethernet protection. So the one that's actually available on Amazon USA right now is the one that has all 3. So that is the VNT. So it's the P11 VNT. As the name implies, 11. It is 11 outlets, not 12, but 11 is more than 9, so it gives you a little bit of expandability. I like that the outlets are nicely spaced out, so if you have any wall warts, then you can still fit those. The plugs go in different directions, so if you need the cords to go out in various directions, they can. And then the actual plug on the APC itself swivels. So you can aim that cord in any direction, which I also like. And then, yes, on the back of it are 3 directional keyhole mounts. So mounting this to the underside of your desk should be no problem at all. And it is $65. So I don't think it's breaking the bank. It has nice high joule count. It lits through the full 15 amps. No battery backup, of course, but yeah, perfectly sufficient.
Good. Yeah, good one. Get that. Infinite Gary. The rumor is that Apple will release a new version of the Apple TV 4K near the end of the 2025. The key upgrades that are being rumored are the inclusion of Apple's own Wi-Fi and Bluetooth chip, which is widely expected to launch with the iPhone 17 models. And so we're going to put out something that's exactly the same and in some ways inferior to other things, but we're going to call it Apple's and everybody's going to love it.
That's right.
And an A17 Pro and A18 processor, I don't know, whatever that means, which would make the new Apple TV 4K compatible with Apple Intelligence, which no one needs. But Gary really doesn't care about any of those things. He just wants to know, will a newer Apple TV 4K mean any improvements to the look and sound of streaming movies and shows? No. What further improvements are needed, either on the streaming hardware side or the streaming technology side, to make streaming movies look and sound every bit as good as Ultra HD, Blu-ray, or Kaleidoscope? Bandwidth,
yeah,
and people caring about it. And none of those things are happening.
I'm like, the thing is, there is no technical reason why they couldn't do it today. Like, from a pure, can the technology support it? The technology can absolutely support it. There's nothing that needs to be upgraded to do it today. It's just a limitation on they don't want to send that many bits over the internet in a streaming fashion. So truthfully speaking, what would need to improve in order to get streaming quality identical to Ultra HD Blu-ray or Kaleidoscope? Most likely, like I say, on the technical side, they could just send more bits. There's not a real reason why that absolutely could not be done. But more realistically, a more efficient codec. One that can compress the video signal and the audio signal to a smaller file size, but without any loss of quality. So a new, more advanced codec that is more efficient and can shrink the file size losslessly, or as close to losslessly as possible. That's the most likely thing that would be needed in order to get streaming quality looking and sounding better over the internet. And along with more efficient codecs, you do need more powerful hardware on the playback side, because to do the decompression side of the decoder, the codec, to do the decompression side, you have to have a more powerful processor to decode when you're using something that is compressing down that data size more and more and more. So having the more powerful processor opens up the possibility in the future, if there's a H.267, because we already have an H.266. I'm not sure how much that's being used, but another even more efficient codec beyond that. That's the most likely thing that'll get that quality up.
Yeah. David wants to know what were the headphones that I was raving about for the insanely long battery life, and that was the SoundPEATS Space. Not only am I raving about it, did I rave about it here, but my parents just asked me what headphones to buy my autistic brother, who uses them all the time, and I told him to buy this. So that's what they bought. He also found
Space.
Yeah. He also found the AV Gadgets review of the EarFun Wave Pro wireless headphones. That review mentioned super long battery life as well. He wants to buy a pair of wireless headphones for his son. So between those two options, which are better? They live in Japan. It's about a $15 difference, with the earphones costing a little bit more. I mean, this is 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I don't have these headphones anymore because they all got flooded. So my recollection is that I felt like I'd have to look at the review, but the earphones, I felt like they felt not quite as sturdy as the SoundPEATS.
Okay, that's like just physically.
Physically, they felt a little bit more breakable. Okay, which I don't really worry that much about, because I'm not breaking them. I take good care of my stuff. They do have a case, which is nice. And the SoundPEATS, I don't remember having a case.
The SoundPEATS, you mentioned that they can't be folded and they don't come with a case, whereas the earphones can be folded and they do come with a case. So that's a feature difference for sure. That might also lead to that slightly more flimsy feel, because it's got the hinge so that they can be folded, whereas the SoundPEATS don't have that hinge.
So, I mean, I think for your son, either one of these will be good. they both have very long battery lives. The SoundPEATS really
Right.
does have it's just it. I mean, I used them for so long, it just seems
beyond believability
Yes.
battery life on those. But it's not as though the earphones were like short battery life.
No,
they were like
no,
really
they
long
were
battery
so
life
very
too.
long battery
The
life.
thing
yeah.
was, in that EarFun review, really highlighted the active noise canceling as being super impressive. So how is the active noise canceling on the SoundPEATS? If you remember.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I mean, usually if it doesn't say in the review, it's just fine. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Most of the active noise canceling, I mean, these are over-ear headphones.
Yeah.
Over-ear closed backs. So they already are doing sound isolation whether you like it or not. So they're blocking some things out. And that also what I tend to find with very mediocre quality ANC is that wind becomes an issue. So
Right.
when it tries to cancel out the wind, it just makes this weird whistling noise in your ear by trying to cancel out the wind, which it cannot do very well. So let me see. I don't remember the ANC performance here.
Yeah, because that was really highlighted in the EarFun Wave Pro. Well, the active noise canceling was really highlighted in that review. It was Andrew who posted that review, so I'm not sure if you were coordinating with him, but yeah, he really highlighted the active noise canceling on the EarFun. So like that's two differences that might make the $15 difference worth your while. Is that if you really want the active noise canceling, for sure the EarFuns was like, hey, standout performance as far as the active noise canceling goes, and then the EarFuns can be folded and come with a case. If that's super important, then that's a feature difference that would be worth considering.
And not to, I would imagine that the active noise canceling on both these headphones is very similar. Now, my reaction to it and to the SoundPEATS and Andrew's reaction to it on the EarFun may have something to do with our differences in experience with these things. Or it could be that the EarFun were really that much better, but we're not.
I mean, he really pointed out
apples.
where he was even doubting his initial impressions, and then he's like, no, I used them for like a month, and he's like, yeah, these are crazy good ANC on the earphones.
Well, there you go. So maybe if that's what matters to you, maybe it's worth the extra $15. And
exactly.
a slightly shorter battery life, which I don't think is probably all that much shorter. I clicked on it. Here it comes. Okay. Brandon. Brandon was looking for a basic and inexpensive AV receiver, so he went over to Accessories for Less and spotted both the Denon S760H for $300 and the S770H for $330. 10%. Obviously not a huge price gap, and the 770 is more recent, but they appear to be exceedingly similar. And the 770 actually has fewer inputs on the back versus the older 760H model. So is the 770 worth paying $30 more, or could you save the $30, get the 760, and not actually miss out on anything? Well, unless there's like a room correction, which I would doubt at this price point.
Difference there.
It's just the number of inputs, and as the models went up, you would get more HDMI, not models, but the same level of gears of quality of AV receiver from Denon and Marantz. As the years went on, you would get fewer inputs of analog.
Yes,
and then more
that is
HDMI.
The case here. Yeah.
So if you look at the number of HDMI inputs or regular inputs on the back of the AV receiver, and the cheaper one has all the inputs you need, then that's the one you get.
I mean, in this case, the number of HDMI is the same, and I was trying to think back. I'm like, okay, was this S760 one of those single HDMI 2.1 inputs? Because there was all those Denon models that had one HDMI 2.1 and then all the others were HDMI 2.0. But that is not the case. This was the one where the 760 came out a little bit later than most of the other models. So it came out late enough in that group of Denon receivers that it had 3 HDMI 2.1 inputs and then 3 HDMI 2.0 inputs. But I mean, 3 HDMI 2.1 is enough because, that's a PlayStation 5, an Xbox Series X, and a gaming PC. And it's like, well, what else do you need HDMI 2.1 for? Unlikely you have more than 3 HDMI 2.1 sources. And then when the S770H came out, it was one of the first of the new batch. So it has exactly the same HDMI complement. It also has 3 2.1 and 3 2.0. So the S770H and the S760H, identical amplifiers, identical processing, identical HDMI, but the 770 eliminated all analog video connections. It has none, whereas the older 760 does still have at least some composite yellow plug in and out. It's not doing any composite to HDMI up conversion, though, so it really is just a very basic composite video switch. Unlikely you even need that, but the 770 got rid of it entirely. It's purely HDMI, no analog video whatsoever. The only other difference was the 770 got a slightly newer version of Bluetooth. The 760 was on 4.3, and then the 770 went up to 5.0 for the version of Bluetooth. That's it. That's all the differences. So if you can live with the slightly older version of Bluetooth, I would say save $30 and get the 760, because there's no other differences. The HDMI is what matters, and they're identical.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's it for this week. Yes.
Yeah. Too long. Okay, we have two questions left, and they're both too long. So there you go.
That's right. We have Tim on the list, and we have Art on the list. You two gentlemen will be the first up next week.
All right. We want to thank our listeners of the week. We want to thank Lawrence, who went to avrant.com, clicked on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link for the third time. I looked it up. Third time.
Super nice.
And send us a PayPal donation. And to our 133 patrons over at patreon.com.
Yeah, Lawrence, thank you so much being so generous with those PayPal donations. We really appreciate that. And over at patreon.com/AVRant podcast, that is the place you can go to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thanks to our 133 patrons over there.
So I thank Stefan, Gurinder, Tony, Brendan, and Art for sending us notes of gratitude. Thank you guys for thanking us.
Yes, indeed. I'll say the names so they came from my lips. We got Stefan, Gurinder, Tony, Brandon, and Art. Thank you very much for those notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
If you want to get your question answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. For AVRant, I'm Tom Andrew.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.